So what in the world do we have right here? Yes, we've got to talk about this apparent new superpower coming to Diablo 4 Season 1. So welcome back to Sanctuary. We've got some brand new details straight from the Diablo 4 dev team about Season 1, how Malignant Tunnels differ from Nightmare Dungeons, and how Malignant monsters are very different from Elite monsters in the vanilla game. But there's still some major concerns here. I'll talk about that in a moment, and more on what they are calling the new loot grind loop of Season 1 and how it differs from the base game as well. But yeah, let's get straight into this. It comes from this article right here. It's a brand new interview. It says, how Diablo 4 Season 1's new Malignant villains are changing the game. I say we get straight into this, and we'll get into a bunch of other topics as well. Let's do this. So first and foremost, it goes on to say this. Ahead of its July 20th launch date, we spoke with lead dungeon designer Michelle Pina and game director Joe Shelley about how this first season is changing things up from a gameplay perspective. It seems that the focus is going to be on a tighter gameplay loop with regards to rewards and dungeon crawling, but this all starts after finishing the main story, when a new plague spreads and morphs some existing monsters into what we are calling the Malignants. So we're going to scroll down here and get into the details. So the article goes on to say this one right here. It says, in Diablo 4, elite level enemies are tough foes found throughout the world, but in this seasonal update, they have a chance of appearing as, of course, Malignant monsters. Now, they're described as supercharged versions with new attack patterns and properties, and they can pop up in public events, normal dungeons, or nightmare dungeons, but will mostly be encountered in a new set of dungeons called Malignant Tunnels. So, now we also know that, yeah, these monsters can also appear in nightmare dungeons as well. There is a chance of that happening. Malignant Tunnels will pop up across the world during the season, and while they'll effectively act like instant dungeons seen in other parts of the game, this is where Pina took some of the lessons learned from the base game. They're intended to change the pace of gameplay, focusing on mob killing and earning loot that you actually want. This also comes with a focus on a brisker cadence in dungeon crawling by having smaller, more concentrated spaces. So yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how the action unfolds compared to what we're experiencing in, say, Nightmare Dungeons. Now, there are some concerning stuff. We're going to get into that right now. So it says, when we were getting feedback from betas and everything else, the kill the monsters objectives, some people didn't like it, and I totally understand why. You had a lot of backtracking to do, Pina said. As a response to fulfill the need for that tighter pace, she said, I wanted to give players a space where we just have a couple objectives in a smaller layout where they can go wild. I know players really want to get those rewards, and I definitely don't want to be in the way of that. So this actually sounds like good news to me overall. However, I am concerned that they still are focused on any type of objectives in dungeons. As you know, currently, a lot of players just don't like any sort of objectives in dungeons. Why not just have it a dungeon layout where you can just freely explore that dungeon and kill the monsters, you know what I mean? And also have a focus around bosses. That's what I think needs to happen, but we'll see how this plays out. It sounds like it is an improvement over Nightmare Dungeons, in my opinion. But again, we have to go hands-on with it to really determine that, of course. Now, we have this one right here. It says, those objectives also seem to be closely tied to giving players more agency in the gameplay loop and the rewards they get. When you defeat a Malignant monster, it drops a Malignant Heart, and you have the chance to seize it as a reward. These are called Caged Hearts, of which there are 4 types. A new set of seasonal gear, rings and jewelry specifically, will feature sockets specifically for Caged Hearts. Now, these will of course give players buffs and new properties aside from normal stat boost seen in the multicolored gems. While we only got a sneak peek of what kind of powers Caged Hearts provide, Shelley likened the Caged Hearts to what gems could be if they also contained legendary aspects, leading to some wildly powerful builds. Now, we did get further details from the official Diablo 4 Twitter of what we can actually expect from Caged Hearts. Check it out right here. It says, put the hearts of your enemies to good use in the season of the Malignant. And of course, it's coming to Diablo 4 on July 20th. And here are the different Malignant Heart types that we can expect. We have Vicious Heart, Brutal Heart, Devious Heart, and Wrathful Heart. Now, Vicious Heart describes it as an offensive power, and of course, it's going to be dropping from those vicious Malignant monsters. Now, Brutal Heart is for defensive power, Devious is utility power, and then we have Wrathful Heart, which is interesting. It is going to be described as a superpower. So I am thinking that perhaps the Wrathful Heart is going to be the most sought after heart. I could be wrong about that, but it's being described as a superpower for a reason. So yeah, that's saying something. All right, let's keep going. Now, furthermore, the article goes on to say this. However, engaging with the Malignant Heart means fighting an even tougher version of that monster. Shelley described them as a step above elite for sure, and it presents a sort of escalation opportunity because of its risk-reward scenario. Furthermore, it says part of making the new loot grind loop work is putting more control in the player's hand for what rewards they get instead of purely relying on RNG. At the end of the Malignant Tunnel will be a Malignant Outgrowth, which can activate a crafted item called an Invoker, and this leads to a big boss battle. This type of Caged Heart reward at the end of that fight depends on what kind of Invoker you use, so you determine which of the 4 Caged Heart types you get. Shelley said it's an extension of what the base game did in terms of telling players which dungeons give rewards for each specific class, and I have to say I do love this. I love the fact that you can go in here and determine what type of heart you actually want. Now, it's not the exact power you can determine, it's just the type of heart that you can determine. At least you can do that in, of course, Season 1. So, let's keep going. Now, the article furthermore says this, tying all of this together is a story about the aftermath of the main campaign. I wouldn't consider a spoiler to say that there's much more evil around Sanctuary than the main villain, Lilith. A new ally named Cormand is at the center of all of it, of course, an ex-priest from a small town who isn't exactly powerful but wants to do what's right and needs your help. We'll have a separate feature where we spoke with the narrative designers of Diablo 4 and how Season of the Malignant story aims to continue the base game's more human stories. So while we'll be hunting malignant monsters for the loot grind and mob killing satisfaction, there will be a distinct quest line to tie the new gameplay and narrative elements together. And again, a word of warning here. This is not going to be a very long-winded campaign or like an expansion story arc. From what I understand, it's going to be somewhat brief. It's just an intro to the actual gameplay mechanics. And then, yes, Cormand is going to be our new vendor. So that's also something to keep in mind. It's kind of like a segue into the new gameplay features. So, yeah, keep your hype levels in check when it comes to actual story elements to Season 1. Also, we have this one right here. From what Pinna told us, she worked closely with the narrative team when pitching the idea of Malignant Tunnels to determine what they should look like. I was able to work with them to make these cramped, stark spaces that look gross and feel awful while sticking to the main gameplay loop. And she also said she collaborated with the quest design team to make specific dungeons that fit the quest they created. I kind of let the quest designer drive in the sense that I'm there to support them. Now, I love that. That sounds like more handcrafted stuff right there. So I'm kind of curious to see how that one works out. If we have some Malignant Tunnels that really, really look different from the base game, at least I hope. That'd be cool. All right, next up it says this. As for bringing Diablo into the modern gaming world with seasonal content, Pinna said, it's an opportunity for the team to try new systems and mechanics, see what works while exploring new stories within Sanctuary. Shelley also added the cool thing about a live service game like Diablo 4 with a content release schedule like 4 seasons a year and expansions, there are so many opportunities to have cool ideas. He emphasized that it gives them room for experimentation, saying the next question, is where should this cool idea go rather than can we do this cool idea or not? Now it says when the season of the Malignant goes live, players will need to create a seasonal character specifically for the seasonal content, of course. Now, it'll be an opportunity to build up other classes at a faster pace as well, and you'll be able to bring them into the Eternal Realm and use them even after the season is over. Now, Blizzard has stated that the season journey and battle pass provide new objectives that let players level up quicker with XP boost earned from the battle pass's free track. We'll see how all these new elements come together as we start tearing through Malignant monsters when Diablo 4 Season of the Malignant launches on July 20th. Yeah, and it is noteworthy that some of the renown that you currently have, of course, in your Eternal Realm character can, of course, carry over into your new seasonal character. So at least they have done that. And I feel like they are definitely doing their absolute best to listen to feedback from the community. I just hope they keep going with that and kind of like double down on that one for sure. All right, so let's get into your top comments from my previous video. Remember to leave a comment down below. It could end up in a future video. So yes, my most recent video was this one right here. Devs confirm it, named rare items, in-game concerns, and is this getting worse with time? So check it out. But yeah, let's see what you guys had to say about it. So we have this one right here. I gotta say, it was a huge waste of time for them to change how the named rares work. It was a complete non-issue. They chose to delegate time and resources to change a mechanic everyone liked, while those resources could have been used to fix some of the many glitches and bugs that plagued the game. So yeah, if you didn't know, yeah, these named uniques could drop 100% of the time from certain elites. Now it's like 33% of the time. When they do stuff like this, when the community is not complaining and they're not even talking about it, and then they suddenly make a change, for me personally, they're running it more like, this is just what I'm going to say, a casino. They're trying to get that like addictive nature from you. You know, they want you to kind of seek it more and more instead of just making it fun, you know, and rewarding. Now, there are some comments in here that say, well, the named uniques and the named rares are kind of completely underwhelming anyway, so I don't even care. That in itself is a big problem, and one they need to really focus up on here more and more as time passes. We need to hear what they plan to do to adjust this game when it comes to rewards, because right now it just feels like, once you're past that certain level in the game, I'm talking about like level 70, level 80, you're just like, I think I'm done. Let's start a new character. At least that's how I feel. I don't know if you guys are the same way or not. Then again, you do have that, you know, ultimate Uber Lilith boss in the game, but I don't know how many of you guys are like, oh my god, I have to face off against Uber Lilith, because it just seems like there's no real rewards there, you know? All right, so next up, we have this one right here. Lazera, I think it is. It says, to help with the memory leak, people should run or should turn off their PC regularly instead of putting it to sleep. It will dump the data stored up on your RAM, VRAM. The problem will get worse the longer you go without turning your PC off, because the RAM, VRAM gets fuller and fuller. I have had this issue with other games in the past. When I was only putting my PC to sleep, power off on helps immensely. I've stated this a ton of times, but it gets lost in the comments. You are 100% right about that, by the way, because yeah, you know, I use my PC for video editing and then recording, and then it's not wise to go straight into playing Diablo 4. It never is. So I usually do a complete shutdown of my PC and then start up a fresh session of Diablo 4 without any baggage from video editing. So I do 100% agree with you that it is wise to shut off your PC when you start a fresh session of Diablo 4, especially if you're doing anything like I'm doing, like video editing. Highly recommend that. But then again, I have done that and it doesn't help. So there can be problems within Diablo 4 for sure with the VRAM, and they are going to be doing some fixes for that in the future. All right, so there it is. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned here for more Diablo 4 news and updates. As always, I have you guys covered, and I will see you all next time. Take care.